Hi, this is Brett Ingram, award-winning entrepreneur, and today I want to help answer the question, what is the best way to start and grow a business? When we're starting a business, whether it be an online business, an offline business, or any other sort of business, the good news is nowadays, if we go to look and research some ideas, we can find tons of different information, tons of different ideas, strategies, and tactics out there. All we have to do is a couple of internet searches and we can find 100 different ways to start a business, 100 different business ideas, 100 different strategies, 100 different tactics. And so it's very easy to find lots of information. We no longer need to find someone who's already built the business and try to figure out if they can help us understand how to do it. We don't need to try to research anything on our own. We literally can do it from the comfort of our own home with our own laptop or our own mobile phone and be able to find everything we need. That's fantastic. I mean, that is really an amazing evolution in terms of the way that you would start a business. I remember decades ago starting my very first business, I wasn't even sure how to structure it. I didn't even know how to set up like the forms that I needed to fill out with the state or the federal government or whatever. And so I had no idea what I was doing and I had to learn all of those kinds of things. Nowadays, you do a couple of searches online, you can find that stuff. It's very fast, it's very easy. And so that efficiency, that simplicity, and that easy access is fantastic. The downside is, while it's easy to find that advice, the bad news is there's too much of it. There's too much information. There's too many ideas and too many strategies, too many tactics. And unfortunately, if we start to dig and start to really look into it a little bit, what we find is that some of those strategies and tactics even conflict, or they're actually direct opposite of each other. So what ends up happening is we start off gathering information and feeling good about the fact that we're sort of climbing this hill of where we need to get to, only to find that, geez, it's kind of confusing because this person's telling me that I should be on that hill, this person's telling me I should be on that hill, and I need to climb this way and go that way. So what do I do? And so whether we're just trying to start a business, and we don't even know where we're going to go to begin, or maybe we have a business and we're looking for a way to be able to grow it. How do we expand it? How do we scale it? Either way, no matter what we're looking for in terms of tactics and strategies and all that information online, there's going to be confusion because there's a ton of information and again, a lot of it conflicts. So what do we do? What is the best way? And by best, I define that real simple. And the way that I look at things is I look for efficiencies. So I'm looking for fastest. I'm looking for cheapest, least risk, highest reward, right? Isn't that what we all want? We want to be able to build what we're doing, do what we want, and be able to do it in the fastest, cheapest, easiest way. And we want to be able to do it with the least amount of risk and the highest possible reward. So when I say best, that's exactly what I mean. What's the best way to do this? So let's take a look at some of the popular methods and ideas from every angle, and we'll sort of analyze this a little bit. So if we're looking just from a startup perspective, right? Just from the very, very top, 10,000 foot view, one of the things that we have to wrestle with in the beginning is what is the purpose, right? Why are we doing this in the first place? And what it is that we're hoping to accomplish. And these purposes can range wildly. It could be anything from, I want to change the world. I've got this idea. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. It's just that I got this idea that I think is world changing. So it's thrusting me into this. And I've got to become an entrepreneur and start a business because I want to change the world with this new idea. For some people, it's, I just want to make more money. I want to be able to do something where I can make more money than I can working for somebody else who's paying me. Or maybe I want to do that and work so I have supplemental income. For some people, it's just quit your job. I don't want to work for somebody else anymore. So I don't like my job. I want to be able to quit that. So I want to start a business so I can, be my own boss in that. Some people just want to have freedom, right? If you have your own business, then the theory is, right, you have total freedom because you can do whatever you want. You're your own boss. You make your own hours. You set all those sort of old like stereotypes and things about running a business, which are absolutely true. But interestingly, in the beginning, it's actually the opposite. We end up working a lot more than we would if we were working for somebody else. And maybe it's to help people solve problems, right? So regardless of what sort of the underlying reason for it is, there has to be one. There's a purpose, there's an impetus, there's something that sort of spurs us to say, I want to start a business. Truth is, any of those can work, right? So you might read somewhere that, well, you have to have this grand vision that, we're going to reinvent sliced bread in order to be able to be successful. It's nonsense. Okay, you can also just do it because you want a better lifestyle or whatever. Truth is, any of them can work. Some of them might seem more noble, the reasons, but whatever drives you hard enough to do it is all that matters. So whatever it is, it doesn't matter if you just really hate your boss and you just have to get out. If that will drive you, if that will get you out of bed in the morning and get you working and get you doing your business and working it until you reach the success level you want, go for it. It doesn't matter what the reason is, it matters that there is one. So purpose is one thing. Then we have to look at the structure, right? So when we talk about structure and you look this up, you'll see 100 different plans and software and all this for making a business plan. Should you have this detailed business plan with a vision, what your grand idea is and a mission, what your company is set out to do, and then a market analysis where you break down all the competitors, all the sort of competitive landscape and the customer base and the industry and all these other things, and then you have projections, financial projections about what you're going to do in sales, what you're going to do in revenue, what you're going to do in profit. Or do you just start with a simple idea and build on it? Do you just say, I'm not going to formalize all this stuff and spend 3 weeks writing out a business plan. I have this simple idea. I think I want to wash and clip nails for pets. So I'm just going to start a business and build on it. And so, look, on the surface, planning is usually a smarter way to go about it. There's no doubt about it, right? If we're planned, then we are going to be able to identify issues and opportunities in advance. So it's going to be a lot easier. So to some extent, the idea of planning makes a lot of sense. On the other hand, if we get stuck in this analysis and planning phase, and it takes us 6 months to create a business plan, then we've wasted all that time that we could have started only to maybe not even have it work in the first place or get it off the ground. So, we do want to be able to identify issues and opportunities in advance. We want to make sure that we're making good decisions. We want to keep a clear idea of our direction. But the reality of it is, in any business, the greatest business plan in the world is meaningless the minute that you get started. Because the fact of the matter is, reality, a lot changes after you get going. Mike Tyson, the famous boxer, heavyweight boxer, who was one of the most feared boxers of all time, he would knock guys out so quickly in the ring that people were afraid to get in the ring with him. And he once said, everybody has a plan when they go into the ring until they get hit. It's the same thing in business. You can have the greatest plan in the world. The minute that you start to execute it and you find out that, wait a minute, reality is a little bit different than what I have on paper and in theory. And so I'm not suggesting a business plan is not a good idea. I'm just saying we want to temper that. We want to make a decision based on what makes the most sense. So again, either can work, and in some cases we'll need a detailed business plan. We'll get into that in a minute. With focus and a simple, fast start, you can get in the game, learn, and then adapt. Or you can be really well planned and know exactly where you're going, and that can work as well. So what about financing? When we look to financing, obviously we need money to be able to start a business. So one of the options is self-financed. So we can use our savings, we can use credit if we have credit cards or whatever, we can take out loans. So all those ways are to self-finance. If we want to do it ourselves, then we own 100% of what it is, but we also take the responsibility and liability for any losses and anything else that we have. The other options are venture capital. So if we have a really big idea, we could go to a venture capital company and try to get, in the millions of dollars in terms of raising money. That's going to require, a very well thought out, detailed plan, a pitch deck, lots of other things. You can get an angel investor, which is, generally more of an individual or smaller group. It's not as formal as venture capital, but it's wealthy individuals that, are interested in investing in, entrepreneurial ventures. It's a little bit faster to raise the money than it is with a VC. But it's also more difficult, and not more difficult, but it's a more tailored individual approach, and you're dealing with an individual or a couple individuals as opposed to a company. And so there's other stipulations there, and then there's crowdfunding. Crowdfunding has grown huge in popularity over the recent years because of the internet, and so we have the ability now to actually put our idea out there, show it to lots of people, and say, donate $10, donate $50, whatever. I'll give you some special thing about my business if you do it. And with crowdfunding, we can use that to use a lot of different people to generate money in order to be able to raise funds. Now, there are pluses and minuses of each of these. On the one hand, it would be great to have other people's money, right? Because then we could play with that, and if it doesn't work out, we aren't on the hook. We walk away with exactly what we had. At the same time, there are a lot more hoops to jump through if we want to raise other people's money. So if it's venture capital, there's a lot of infrastructure. We need a very well thought out plan. We need a team in place. We need to have all the pieces thought through. We need a detailed business plan. We need a pitch deck, and we need to be able to make these introductions to venture capital firms, and we need to do a lot of pitching. So it's a lot of work up front without any guarantee of ever being able to raise any money. A lot of people are going to pitch VC and they're never going to see anything. Same thing goes for angel. It's a little bit less intense, but the same idea. We still need to reach out to all these angel investors. We need to pitch them. We need to sell them on our idea and get them to invest. And so there's a lot of overhead. And what can happen is, if it's not necessary and we try to go those routes, we can burn ourselves out, spending weeks, months, or even years trying to generate money for our idea before we can ever get it off the ground. And there's no guarantee we're ever going to be able to raise money that way. Crowdfunding, by the way, while it sounds great, is exactly the same idea. Now, there's smaller investments by each person, so it's easier, and there's less heavy lifting in terms of the onboarding process, but the marketing is tremendous. With venture capital or angel, you just need an audience in front of one of them, and you can do your pitch and you're good. With crowdfunding, in order to get a crowd to fund it, it's not field of dreams. It's not if you build it, people will come. You have to promote it. And so you're going to need to spend money on promotion for it anyway. You're going to spend money to try to make money. And there's no guarantee it'll work. The statistics, sadly, are actually not that great for crowdfunding. There are firms out there now that will take your money to promote your offer in crowdfunding circles. The fact of the matter is, though, you're spending money with them, which is in the thousands. You're spending money to try to create this idea for the crowdfunding, and then you're hoping that you're going to get your return on investment back. And you're hoping you can generate enough money. Oftentimes, crowdfunding campaigns generate less than what we're targeting. So depending on what platform you're using, you may or may not even get any of the money that you can use. Obviously, with your own financing, you can start today and you can get going. And it's very fast, it's very easy. You're your own boss, you make all your own decisions, and that's really great, but you also assume all the risk. If the venture goes down the toilet, if if you take out loans and all this, and then your business fails, you still have to pay all that stuff back because it's personal. And so those are the pluses and minuses, and those are decisions that we need to make as well. And again, it's a common theme. Any of these methods can work, and they all do work. But there are conditions for each. So then if we look at operations, right? Physical plant, office, storefront, or virtual and online. Do we want to have an actual manufacturing facility or warehouse or whatever, or an office, right? Do we need an office space where we can all sit and work together? Do we want a storefront? If we're doing something in retail, we're going to need something where we can get walk-in traffic. Or maybe we want to do it all virtually and online, where we have a website that sells stuff and we sell things through social media and everything else, but we aren't actually housed in a store. And so those are all, super important considerations. And again, all can work, and it's going to depend a little bit on a couple of factors, which we're going to cover in a minute. The same thing goes to the structure in terms of staff and employees. Do we want to staff? Do we need to hire full-time employees that are going to work with us sort of shoulder to shoulder every single day? Do we need help, but we don't really want staff or employees? Do we want to just outsource instead? So we can use freelance help, where we can get people now with the internet connecting us all so easily. You can get people from all over the world to work with you, and you don't need to hire them as full-time employees. So you have the option to, get people as you need them, let them go when you don't anymore. And, there's very little relationship there or overhead in terms of being able to add people to the team and take people off or whatever else. Or maybe we want to work alone, depending on what our goals are and what we want to do, what is our preference and options there? As you'd guess, common theme again, any of those and all of those can and do work. What about fulfillment? Do we need inventory, drop shipping? Are we doing digital stuff, right? So all of those kinds of things are also considerations. And again, it's going to depend a little bit on the business, which we'll talk about in a minute, and it's going to depend a little bit about what we want. And then technology. Do we want our technology to be in-house or do we want it to be third-party, right? Any and all of these methods can work, and they do work. And if you start to research online, what you'll find is somebody will say, well, you've got to have all your technology in-house, otherwise you're susceptible to hackers and you could get malware and viruses and you're going to spend a lot of money on other companies. Other people are going to tell you, don't even hassle with the technology. It's so much easier. You write a little check and everything's housed in these cloud servers offline and everything's safe. So what's the answer? I mean, what is the answer, right? Because there are all these different options. And then if we look at marketing, right, this is sort of like the last piece of the structure of it all. We could run ads. So we could do radio, TV, online, billboards, direct mail. Those are all options in terms of ways to market our business. And they all work. We could do SEO or content marketing. And that absolutely works as well. We can do social media marketing and influencer marketing. We can also do joint ventures and get affiliates. And so other people can market our stuff for us without us needing to pay for advertising up front. And again, all of these methods can work. And so, those are all the different considerations and the different elements of starting and growing a business that we need to consider. And we need to figure out what is the best way to do this for our business. So those are many of the key areas of business. And there are many ways to start and grow any business. And the challenge is that all of them can work in the right circumstances. So if we get back to our original question, what's the best way to start and grow a business? Well, the answer is it depends. Sometimes there are no choices, right? If you want to start a new car manufacturer, it's going to be pretty hard to self-finance that. I mean, you're not going to be able to fit a car manufacturing plant and inventory on your credit card. You're going to need millions of dollars. And so you're going to need outside funding for that. And that's going to mean, in order to get the outside funding, we need a proper business plan. Because no one is going to write us a big check without a business plan. And then we're going to need a physical plant. You can't manufacture cars in your backyard. So we're going to need a plant. We're going to need staff. We need people to operate the machines, even if it's automated and computerized. So we're going to need employees. We're going to need to run ads. In order to compete on that level, we have to have corporate advertising. We aren't going to be able to do that by word of mouth. So all of those kinds of things are going to necessitate or they're going to tell us what the answers to all those questions are, because there is no choice. And in some businesses, that's going to be the case. But let's take, for example, a dog grooming business. If we wanted to start a dog grooming business, maybe we could self-finance that, right? Maybe we could do it ourselves. Maybe we could fund it by ourselves, because we might be able to take out a small loan, personal loan. We might have some savings, and we might actually have, some credit card that we could use, available credit we could use to start it up. The overhead to start a dog, we don't need a lot of inventory, right? So we probably, not need a full business plan if we don't need somebody else's money. We're going to need a location, unless we want to do like a mobile dog grooming thing. And we might even be able to start alone or with a very small staff, maybe a partner or one employee or something like that, For marketing, maybe we could use like a value pack mailer, do flyers, or maybe even word of mouth once it gets started, like a lot of hair salons have. And so those considerations are different. It doesn't necessitate the same amount of answers to some of those things. So we have more choices. And then if we look at a digital product, so say we're going to make a software app or we're going to make an e-learning product, that business largely can probably be self-financed. We may or may not need a business plan. We could do it from home, right? So we don't even need to do that with an office or retail space. We could use outsourced talent if we want. We can use SEO and content marketing, social media marketing, online ads. So almost everything can be digital. And so the moral of the story there, what we're talking about here is that one factor that determines the best choices is what business you want to start, right? Because we just went through 3 different kinds of businesses, and some of those, the answers are going to be given to you because there isn't going to be another choice. But when there is a choice, this is where it really becomes, more of an issue, is what are the other factors? And the other factor there is you. It's us, right? It's what is our savings, budget, and credit? Like, would we be able to finance it ourselves if we wanted to? That's a real question that every entrepreneur needs to ask. And even if we can, how comfortable are we with taking risk with our own money or taking on debt? Because those are the options that we have if we're going to be starting our own business and self-financing. Then in terms of a business plan, how good are we at staying focused on our targets and goals? If we're somebody who's very good at doing that, and we have, our goals aren't that lofty. It's pretty simple. We want to start a dog grooming business. We're not trying to revolutionize the industry or be the best dog groomer that ever lived. We just want to have a successful business where we can pay our bills, live with a little bit of freedom, and be our own boss. Okay, great. Maybe we don't need a big business plan for that if we're going to self-finance it. If instead we want to do something that's a lot bigger, or if we have difficulty staying focused on our targets and goals and remembering how to stay motivated about all that, then it's probably useful to make the business plan for ourselves regardless, even if we're not using an outside financer, because that way we're going to be able to stay on track. Another question that we need to ask ourselves is, do we like working from home or do we prefer to get out? There's benefits to working from home, but there's also benefits from working in an office or a storefront. And so depending on what our own preferences are, that's going to make a difference as well in instances where we have a choice, whether or not we want to work at home or have an outside location. Do we like working alongside people or do we prefer to work alone? Again, this is going to help answer the question about, do we want a full-time staff where we have people that actually work with us on a daily basis? We get to know them, we have a relationship with them, we're interacting all day long. Or do we want to just outsource all the help so it's all digital and virtual? And so we can get the help we need, the functional expertise and work done without sort of the relationship element of it, where we're working with somebody every single day. And then are we tech savvy? And do we like control over our technology? Or do we prefer plug and play solutions we don't need to think about? And if there's an issue, we just raise a support ticket and let it go and let them fix it. And that's going to help us determine whether we want our technology in-house or third party. And then do we like to create content and do we like to network? That's going to help us figure out what the best way for marketing is. Because if we like to create content, then SEO and social media marketing is great, right? If we like to network, social media marketing, joint ventures, and affiliates are great ways to market a business because they're all very social in nature. They're all very content-based in nature. If we don't like any of that stuff, ads are a better option because we don't need to get involved in any of that stuff. We can just advertise and then have the leads come to us. And so the answer to what's the best way to start and grow a business depends on what business it is and what your skills, traits, personality, and desires are. So the takeaway here is that there are a lot of different ways to start and grow a business. And looking for advice will turn up many ideas that are in direct conflict or actually opposite each other. They all can work. So the question isn't what is the best way to start and grow a business, but rather for the business we want to start, what's the best way to do it? And the answer to that depends upon the business itself and our own personal skills, traits, personality, and desires.